You think you know this story. A poor boy, an old cow, a handful of magic beans, a giant stalk stretching into the clouds, a monster who smells the blood of an Englishman. You think it's a bedtime story. But what if I told you this story is older than Rome, older than the pyramids of the New Kingdom, that it was whispered around fires by people who had no word for Europe? Because Europe, as a concept, did not yet exist. What if the beanstalk isn't just a beanstalk? Today, we go down, into the roots, into the dark place where all fairy tales are born. In 2016, a team of researchers at the University of Reading published a paper that quietly shook the world of folklore studies. They applied a method borrowed directly from evolutionary biology, the same computational technique used to trace how species branch and diverge over millennia. They used it to map the ancestry of fairy tales, to find out which stories were truly old and how old. What they found was difficult to explain. The story of a boy who climbs into the sky and steals treasure from a giant turned out to be one of the oldest narratives in the entire dataset. Its roots stretch back at least 5,000 years, to the Proto-Indo-European period, to a time before Greece, before Rome, before the Norse sagas existed as we know them. Scholars classify it as tale type ATU 328. The boy steals the giant's treasure. Versions of it appear across the entire Indo-European world. In Norway, it becomes the story of Askeladden, the ash lad who outwits a troll. In Ireland, it echoes through the legends of Finn McCool. In ancient India, the Rig Veda contains structural parallels so close they cannot be accidental. In Greece, Prometheus climbs toward the realm of the gods and returns with something stolen. Same bones, different skin, every time. This is not coincidence. This is inheritance. A story passed down through so many generations that it outlasted every empire, every language, every border drawn by human hands. Now let's talk about the stalk itself, because the beanstalk is the most important detail in the entire story, and almost no one asks where it comes from. Across the ancient world, from the frozen north to the jungles of the Amazon, one image appears with astonishing consistency. A great tree, or pillar, or vine connecting the world below with the world above. The axis of existence, the spine of the cosmos. The Norse called it Yggdrasil, an enormous ash tree whose roots reach down into 3 wells. One holds the water of wisdom. One feeds the roots of fate. One lies beneath the realm of the dead. Its branches hold the sky in place. Along its trunk, gods and spirits move between worlds like travelers on a road. In ancient Mesopotamia, the goddess Inanna planted the hulupu tree on the banks of the Euphrates. It grew tall enough to reach heaven. Demons nested in its roots. A serpent coiled in its branches. It was the border between the sacred and the mortal. In Vedic India, the Ashvata tree grows with its roots above and its branches below. An inverted cosmic tree, rooted in the sky, reaching down toward earth. A living symbol of the universe turned upside down. In the book of Genesis, Jacob dreams of a ladder standing on the earth with its top reaching heaven. Angels ascend and descend. God speaks from the top. It is not called a tree, but it functions as one. Jack's beanstalk grows overnight from a handful of seeds pressed into dead soil. By morning, it has disappeared into the clouds. It reaches a world that exists above the human one. A world with its own geography, its own rules, its own ancient powers. It is Yggdrasil, in a peasant's garden. And this matters enormously when we look at who uses these cosmic trees, and how. Across Siberia, Central Asia, and among indigenous peoples of the Americas, Shamans have practiced spirit journeys for thousands of years. The method varies. The structure does not. The shaman enters a trance. He climbs, always climbs. Up a pole, up a tree, up a rope of smoke or light. He passes through layers of sky, each one guarded by spirits or ancestors. He reaches the upper world, where he encounters powers greater than himself. He takes something, knowledge, healing, fire, truth, and he returns. This is not poetry. This is a documented ritual practice that predates recorded history. Jack is performing the same journey. He climbs before dawn. He passes through the clouds into a world that operates by different laws. He encounters a being of enormous ancient power. He takes something that does not belong to him, and he descends. He is the shaman. The beanstalk is the axis. The giant's castle is the upper world. Now, what exactly does Jack steal? In the most familiar version of the tale, Jack makes 3 separate climbs, 3 separate thefts. First, a bag of gold coins. Second, a hen that lays eggs of solid gold. Third, a harp made of gold that plays music by itself. 3 objects. Each one, in mythological terms, carries extraordinary weight. Gold in ancient symbolism is not wealth. It is solar substance, crystallized light, the material form of divine energy. In Greek alchemy, gold was the perfected state of matter, closest in nature to the gods themselves. In Celtic tradition, the sun was sometimes described as a golden wheel rolling across the sky. To possess gold was to hold a fragment of heaven. The hen that lays golden eggs is an even older image. It maps directly onto the concept of the cosmic egg, the primordial egg from which the universe hatched in Orphic Greek cosmology, in Hindu creation myths, in Finnish mythology, in the traditions of ancient Egypt. The endless source, the womb of existence compressed into a single animal. A hen that produces gold is a hen that produces worlds. And the harp. The self-playing harp is perhaps the most mythologically dense object in the entire story. In Irish tradition, the Dagda, the great father god of the Tuatha Dé Danann, possessed a magic harp called Una. When he played it, the seasons changed in sequence. Sorrow, joy, and sleep came and went according to its music. It was not an instrument. It was a mechanism of reality. In Greek myth, Orpheus did not simply play beautifully. His lyre reorganized the natural order. Stones moved, rivers paused, the dead wept. Music in the ancient world was not entertainment. It was the oldest form of power. Jack steals gold, infinite creation, and control over reality. He steals the fundamental tools of the divine. So who is the giant protecting them? Fe, fi, fo, fum. This line is so old, so strange, so phonetically alien to modern English that scholars have debated its origin for over a century. Some believe it preserves sounds from a pre-English language spoken on the British Isles long before the Anglo-Saxons arrived. Not a taunt, not a rhyme for children, a ritual incantation, a formula of detection. The giant does not simply smell a human. He performs a kind of ancient rite, announcing that something has crossed a boundary it was never meant to cross. A formula of power so ancient, it lost its meaning before the story was ever written down. The giant himself belongs to a category that appears in virtually every Indo-European mythology: the primordial being, the one who came before. The Norse Jotnar existed before Odin and the Aesir gods. They are not evil, they are prior. They represent the age of chaos and raw power that existed before the ordered world was built, before law, before language, before fire was tamed. The Greek Titans ruled the cosmos before Zeus and the Olympians. Kronos devoured his children not from malice alone, but from the instinct of an old order resisting replacement. The Irish Fomorians walked the land before the divine Tuatha De Danann arrived from across the sea. Ancient, deep-rooted, impossible to fully destroy. The giant in Jack's story does not steal the gold, the hen, the harp. He already has them. They are his. He is the ancient guardian of primordial power, and a human boy has found a way into his world. What the giant represents is not evil. He represents everything that existed before humanity decided it deserved to inherit the earth. And perhaps he is not entirely wrong to be angry. There is a final layer to this story that very few people ever reach. Several researchers studying comparative mythology have pointed out that the act of climbing skyward along a vine, a tree, a stalk, particularly at night, particularly toward a luminous world above the clouds, mirrors ancient descriptions of the Milky Way. In dozens of cultures, the Milky Way was called the Road of Souls, the Path of the Dead, the bridge between the living and the world that waits above. Some traditions described it not as a road, but as a great tree seen from below, the trunk of the cosmos, visible on clear nights as a river of pale light cutting across the dark sky. Ancient peoples did not look at the Milky Way and see gas and dust. They saw a structure, a vertical thing, something you could, in the right state of mind, climb. The Lakota people of North America called it the Spirit Road. In ancient Mesopotamia, it was the heavenly river walked by the gods. In Norse tradition, some scholars believe Yggdrasil and the Milky Way were once the same image described in two different languages. Jack climbs at night. The world above is bright and vast. He is traveling the oldest road that human eyes ever traced across the heavens. Medieval monks who first wrote these stories down removed everything that felt too old, too pagan, too close to the spirit world. Shamans became clever children. Gods became monsters. The world tree became a vegetable. The ritual theft of divine power became a boy's adventure. But the shape remained. It always remains.
Because certain stories do not belong to any single culture. They belong to the species. They carry instructions so old they have become instinct. Climb. Risk everything. Confront what is larger than you. Take what you need. Come back changed. The beanstalk is not a plant. It is a direction. Up. If you want to know which other fairy tales are built on bones this old, leave it in the comments. The next story is already waiting. See you in the dark.